87. He lived in an apartment just about 4 miles or so from the theater, according to KUSA. And police have been searching his apartment, but they have not found any explosives inside. The suspect apparently told them that they might. Aurora police spokesman Frank Fania gave some of the details of James Holmes' capture to CNN's Early Start.
He did not resist. He did not put up a fight. I don't know the exact details if the officers surprised him or how it actually happened, but I know some of the first officers that, arrived within, I don't know if it was seconds, maximum a couple minutes, found him behind the theater at his car and took him into custody there.
Now, we can't forget about the victims in all of this. At least 12 lives lost, 38 people injured, including a 3-month-old baby. Of course, this can be an incredibly traumatizing, and it is a traumatizing experience. The Red Cross is in Aurora offering mental health professionals as well for counseling. Jeff Gardier is joining us right now from New York. He is a clinical psychologist and a forensic psychologist. Good to see you, Jeff.
Great to see you, Frederica.
So we're hearing from these witnesses recall and kind of recount over and over again what happened. I wonder, just for starters, how helpful that might be for some of those eyewitnesses to such a tragedy to kind of articulate, while it's fresh in their minds, what happened.
Well, it is extremely helpful to do that. In law enforcement, we call that debriefing. With psychology, we call that, of course, a catharsis. Being able to talk through what it is that they're experiencing, being able to share it with other people instead of internalizing it. And what we need to realize, Frederica, is that all of those people are still in a state of shock, so they should also be given some time to compose themselves also.
And so that's going to be difficult for those who are loved ones of those victims, who they may not really be sure how to approach them, because some people, handle tragedies like this in a very different way. They may become much more reclusive or withdrawn. How do you know what kind of space in which to give a victim of an attack like this?
Well, certainly the family members know of the history of people who may be involved as far as victims of that shooting, so they'll better know how to approach them. But I think you have to make the overture to begin with, to ask them how they're feeling, to ask them what happened, to ask them what they're experiencing. And if they back up a little bit, if they withdraw, allow them to do that so that they can go through that period of shock. But you should not leave them alone. There should be someone with them, if nothing else, just being in the same room, keeping them company. You don't want to isolate them.
And if you're a survivor of a tragedy like this, I mean, clearly this is a memory that really will never leave you. In many ways, it's kind of a crossroads of your life, isn't it?
I like that term, crossroads, because too many times when people go through trauma, we look at it as something that has damaged them, and they carry that emotional baggage. As psychologists, social workers, psychiatrists, what we want to do is take that traumatic situation, help them work through it, and then take them to the next step of their psychological evolution. In other words, making them stronger than when they before they went into that situation where they were traumatized.
Clinical psychologist Jeff Gardier, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much. Sadly, under these circumstances, though.
Yes.
Joining us from New York. We'll have much more of our continuing coverage after this.